Welcome to Eye on the Issues. And of course, we're talking about the Wyoming State Legislature. And joining me now is Jeanette Ward. You are the House District 57. How is the session going so far?
Well, the three bills that I sponsored didn't make it out of the House, so it's been a little bit frustrating. It's exciting, though, to be in the Wyoming House. And not the Illinois House or Illinois Senate where I came from. There's a team of liberty-loving legislators here, and it's great to be a part of the Freedom Caucus.
Okay, I know you said the measures you sponsored are not really going anywhere per se, but let's talk a little bit about them and get an idea of your thought process and what you were hoping to accomplish. Let's begin with House Bill 66, prohibiting mask, vaccine, and testing discrimination. Can you tell me a little about that?
Sure. So House Bill 66 prohibited discrimination if you wouldn't wear a mask, wouldn't get tested, or wouldn't get vaccinated. I amended it to make it more palatable in an attempt to compromise a few times. It originally applied to all vaccines. I amended it to only apply to COVID vaccines and mitigations, and it did get farther that way. I was able to get it out of the committee that I served on 5-4. It made it past first and second reading, but it failed on third reading. So what happened was a certain legislator put what we call a poison pill in there, an $847 million appropriation to give to all the places accepting Medicaid and Medicare if the federal government refused to pay the Medicaid and Medicare appropriation.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous, right? Given the fact that even this presidential administration has declared an end to the scamdemic as of May 11th. So it's completely ridiculous that I can't protect medical freedom in Wyoming.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. I agree with you there. All right, HB 87, crimes of obscenity. Can you tell it's revisions, I guess? Tell us about that.
So originally, that redefined child pornography to include drawings and cartoons, and it repealed the exemption for educators and librarians and museums. I amended out the part that changed the definition of child pornography because someone pointed out to me, we don't want to punish thought crime. Now, someone drawing cartoons in their house, I don't want to go after that. So I amended it down to only take out the exemption for educators, librarians, and museums, and that failed in committee. Unbelievably, I don't know if you're aware of the books that we've been trying to get out of our school libraries across the country.
Let's hear about them.
So there's Gender Queer and Trans Bodies, Trans Self. I fought that at our local school board. I have two teenagers, two girls in school, so I'm pretty passionate about that. Also, I served on a school board. Anyway, these books describe male-on-male fellatio, masturbation. I mean, just very explicit sexual acts that you don't want your minor children seeing. It ought to be easy and common sense to remove these books from schools. And so the local school board was not responsive to parents, so I took it up to the legislature.
And the books...
It failed in committee.
Actually, I did another interview earlier today, and the gentleman I was talking to in Chicago was talking about the same book. Yeah. All right, let's go to House Bill 143, crime. It is health mandates, CDC, and WHO jurisdictions. Tell us about that.
So House Bill 143 would have made it illegal to, as the basis for mask, vaccine, or testing requirements, use the CDC or the WHO. Essentially said the CDC and the WHO have no jurisdiction in Wyoming, and you can't use their recommendations for justification of masking, of requiring vaccines, or requiring testing. And that
Gotcha.
made it to third reading on the House floor as well, and failed by the same vote as House Bill 66.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, a bill that you did not sponsor, but you're passionate about is HB 152, Life is a Human Right. Tell us about that.
Life is a Human Right Act is a comprehensive pro-life bill that bans abortion in Wyoming except for the life of the mother.
And do you feel like now this has gone through the House? This is over at the Senate right now. Is that correct?
So it did pass the House, but one of the legislators converted it into a trigger bill because we earlier passed a pro-life bill in Wyoming that is now in litigation. And this HB 152 was amended to say that if that litigation fails, then HB 152 takes effect. So it's not as strong as we had hoped. We may get it fixed over on the Senate side. We'll see.
So for people that don't know, what's the status of abortion rights right now in Wyoming?
So we had a trigger law that happened when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Our law said then all abortion except for rape and incest and life of the mother was illegal in Wyoming. And as soon as that happened, radical pro-abortion or pro-death folks took it to court. It was assigned to I'm just going to say a liberal judge out in Jackson, Wyoming, and they put a stay on it. And now it's a holding pattern until December.
So for right now, abortion is legal in Wyoming. There's nothing holding it back. Is that correct?
Yes, I would say. Although still there's an abortion clinic where I live in Casper that's trying to open but hasn't opened. So we have slowed it down, and certainly in Wyoming it's not occurring as it might be in places out east or far west, for example.
Yeah, I completely believe that. Let's talk about the state of Wyoming and actually how you got there, because you didn't grow up in Wyoming.
That's correct. That's correct. I was living in Illinois for 24 years. I ran for state senate back in Illinois in November 2020. That was a previously +9 Republican district. I lost by 1,700 votes, or about 100,000 voters that voted in that election. In one of the 4 counties alone, I lost vote by mail by 8,000 votes. And they didn't bother to check any of those signatures on those ballots to make sure that those were real electors.
They didn't check any signatures.
They didn't check any signatures.
And that was legal? That is legal?
It's apparently legal in Illinois, and that was a result of the scamdemic. So they put into place all kinds of law that essentially codified legalized election theft.
Wow, that's very disturbing. Let's talk about
that was one of the reasons we moved to Wyoming. The straw that broke the camel's back was when they threatened our 16-year-old straight A student with out of school suspension for not wearing a mask. At that point, we were done with Illinois. Yeah. And we moved to Casper, Wyoming. That's how I got here.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, speaking of Wyoming, what do you like most about the state?
So when I first visited here with my family, I noticed someone open carrying. And I said to my husband, I said, look at that. I said, these are our people. I'd never seen constitutional carry before. I mean, Illinois is like the land of Siberia for gun laws. And so the people of Wyoming are freedom loving. When we first visited here, there were all kinds of signs on grocery doors. You have to wear a mask to come in here, and nobody was wearing them. Mm-hmm. So I love the people here. The people here love freedom, and I am confident that the Wyoming voters are going to continue to fight for and choose freedom.
And last question for you. What's it like to be a lawmaker and to be a public servant?
Well, it can be frustrating at times when you're trying to do what your constituents asked you to do. And that was, for me, the number one thing I wanted to do was protect their medical freedom. That is the number one thing they mentioned to me when I walked door to door. And I feel badly for my constituents that I wasn't able to do that. Having said that, it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to fight for their freedom. And I will continue to do that to the utmost of my ability.
All right. Well, Jeanette Ward, thank you for joining us for Eye on the Issues.
Thank you so much for having me.